So shallow water smallmouth fishing isn't nearly as complicated as some anglers think it is. We're going to give you the simple blueprint that we've dialed in over the years to give you the info you need to have success. In this video, we're going to talk about the types of structure we target when we're shallow, how we locate fish, the setups we use, the baits we use, and our retrieves. So when we're talking about shallow, a lot of different people have a different idea what shallow is. For us, in the context of this video, it's generally between 1 and 12 feet of water, especially when you're in a clear body of water and you can see the bottom. Anywhere that we can see the bottom or close to, that's what we'd consider shallow. So shallow water fishing is absolutely my favorite way to catch smallmouth. If there was only one way I could choose to fish every day for smallmouth, it would be up shallow. So when it comes to finding these fish, there's a few steps that we take. The first is doing our map work. We check for areas that have points or flats. Generally, we find that anywhere we know those fish have gone to and spawned, there should be shallow fish nearby. We look for points, we look for flats, we're looking for sand, we're looking for rocks. And the most important key is there needs to be deep water nearby, especially when you're targeting some of the biggest fish. When we're up shallow, sand, weed, rocks, all of that stuff will hold smallmouth. A sneaky little tip that I've learned over the years, having fished tons of different bodies of water, is I generally look for the thing that's a lot different than what's really abundant in the lake. So let me give you an example. If you get on a lake and it's full of rock, there's rock everywhere, there's boulders everywhere, but there's not a lot of weed, generally weed is the ticket. That's where the bulk of the best and the most fish are going to be, situated. On the flip side, if you're on a lake that's super weedy, it's sandy, and there's not a lot of rock, and you find a rock pile or a big boulder somewhere, that's generally a hot spot. Again, look for something that's not common on the lake. That's generally where we're going to have the most success. So now that we've identified some areas that we think are possible places that those fish can hang out, now we got to go out and find those fish. So how do we do that? The first step is we got to cover water. Now there's two ways of doing this. One is you're going to fish maybe a power finesse or a power technique. Maybe it's a jerk bait, a spinner bait. We like to use power finesse techniques. We find we can still cover a lot of water, get a lot of good bites with those techniques, or we'll use our eyes if the conditions allow. So say it's calm and the water's clear. Sometimes we'll get on the trolling motor at a high speed and we'll just burn through the area while we're casting, trying to use our eyes to see smallmouth. This is a really, really good way to quickly find fish where most people would waste a lot of time in dead water fishing and not actually looking for fish. Now, in terms of locating those fish and the baits we'd use, generally we're using like a sneaky underspin. It's a finesse bait. We can cover a lot of water. A hair jig is another really good example. A spy bait is another really good example. Those are baits that we can fan cast. They're baits that fish will definitely follow, and most of the time they'll actually bite. Once we've kind of determined that there's some fish in the area, that's when we'll slow down and we'll really start to pick apart the area with our really super finesse techniques. So shallow water fishing for us has changed dramatically over the years, especially as more information has come out, more guys are understanding how to catch these fish, find these fish. Back in the day, how we'd primarily target these fish would be with like a shallow jerk bait, a spinner bait, a crank bait, a lot of power techniques, even, chatter baits. But because you can cover so much shallow water quickly, and a lot of anglers are doing it, we found over the last several years that pressure has had a big impact on those fish. Those fish used to bite all the time. It seemed like you catch them pretty much at will. Now, if you're using those techniques, you might catch a few, but really, we found that we really have to get into super finessey presentations to start catching those fish, either up front or even those fish that now follow a lot of those, power techniques. So now we found the fish after covering a bunch of water. And let me emphasize that covering water and finding those fish can take time. There are days where we spend almost half the day or almost the full day just trying to locate these fish. But now we found them. So what do? We isolate where we think these fish are, where the biggest group is and how wide of an area are these fish using. We generally we want to back off the spot and we want to start picking off the fish on the edges as we make our way into the bigger group. So we're going to start using baits like, continue to use a drop kick shad, like a little finesse swim bait, a hair jig. We're going to try to get some of those quick eaters to bite, and we're going to just sit still and we're going to fan cast that area. After we've picked off a few, we might go to a drop shot. We might go to a tube or a juvie craw and start to pick off some fish on the bottom. A Ned bug is another really good example. As we continue to go in and center into the core of the fish, that's when we're really going to slow down our presentations. Maybe go with, a smaller micro series bait or a Ned bait. The reason why we want to go with those super subtle presentations is we don't want to create a lot of commotion. We don't want to break up the school. The worst thing you can do is go in there full speed, go right to the core and use a power technique. Oftentimes you'll catch a fish quick, you'll feel like a winner, but the reality is you've now broken up that school. Every fish in that school is alerted to what's going on, and the bite is either going to die or those fish are going to move away from the area. You want to stay back. You want to pick off those fish in very subtle ways, not to alert all the other fish on how that one fish got caught. And that's going to give you an opportunity to catch more of the fish in the area than you would otherwise with a power technique or rushing in too quick. So let me talk specifically about the baits that we use to cover water. So the first one would be, a spy bait. This here is the stay pin spy bait. It's got a third hook on the top. It's a really good option. What you're going to do is you're just going to cast this out and you're going to start reeling, at a speed that's reasonably slow where the bait looks super natural. This is a really good bait for covering water. The second bait we use a lot is a marabou jig. This is the Great Lakes Finesse marabou jig. Hair jigs are super popular for shallow smallmouth. A lot of money has been won on these. We pair it with a drop minnow. We like the drop minnow because it's got that neutral buoyancy. It slows the fall rate of the bait, so it allows you to have longer casts. Like it takes longer for the bait to get to the boat, gives those fish longer to find the bait, track it, and eat it. Really good option. We do find that the hair jig has lost its effectiveness compared to when they first came out and no one was really throwing them, but it's still a really good option that we use all the time. The third option that we go to a lot and is extremely effective is the finesse underspin. This is a sneaky underspin with a drop minnow. You can use a little drop kick shad. This thing you can fish fairly quick, especially if you're super shallow, but it's just a super finessey power fishing technique that we use a lot. A lot of the time, those fish are going to eat it, but at the very least, they're going to follow and it's going to allow you to find those fish. Now, this fourth one is really sneaky. This is our Cindy rig. It's pretty much replaced our hair jig fishing. It's really just our drop minnow on our stealth ball head. It comes through the water column really sneakily. Very subtle, not a lot of movement. It just hovers above their head. They can't resist this. It's even got to the point where we're now going down to the micro series size. We used to use the 275. Now there are times we're using the 2.25 inch. It's really small. It's almost like a crappie bait. I'm telling you, the Cindy rig is super powerful and no one's really doing it. So those are the 4 key baits that we stick with. Again, we like to keep it simple, especially if there's 2 guys in the boat. You can switch up, always have someone fishing something different. That way you can quickly find, what's working for you. So now let's get into the baits that we use when we actually find those fish. So for me, my number one choice, if the conditions allow and the bottom isn't dirty and it's not going to get gunked up, is some sort of dragging bait like a juvie craw. I believe that the biggest fish in the lake will always eat a bottom bait. The juvie craw is an incredible option. It allows you to hop along the bottom. It's super subtle. It looks like just like a little craw. And when you're on those fish in the group, they love eating this and you're able to catch multiple fish off of one spot. Again, I've won more money fishing a bottom bait like a tube or juvie craw than anything else. The second option is a little finesse jig. So this is the Great Lakes finesse jig. I love to pair it with a snack craw. The little snack craw's got these little floating claws and it pairs perfectly. This is a super downsized jig that most people aren't even used to. You fish it like the juvie craw, you hop it along the bottom, you can swim it a little bit or hop it. Works great on rock piles, around grass, sand transitions. It's a really good subtle option. Now, a third really good option when you're up shallow is a drop shot. Oftentimes we'll go with a shorter lead, lighter weight, but this allows you to really pick off those fish, especially if you can see them and you can kind of cast in front of them and lead those fish. Now, a sneaky little tip that I've learned over the years is oftentimes if they're not reacting to the bait and they're kind of in a bad mood, I'll actually cast the bait directly behind the fish. They can't see the bait falling behind them, but they sense it. They turn around and by the time that weight has hit the bottom, They don't see any of that fall. They don't see the weight. They turn around. All they see is that bait in front of their face, and they can't help but eat it. It's a sneaky way we've been able to get bites when a lot of anglers are really struggling. So the last option we normally go to before we give up on an area or a school of fish is a little Ned. So this is our Ned bug. It's a really unique profile. It sits on our, GLF Ned head. Really good option. It's super subtle. It's really a do nothing presentation. You cast it out, drag it along really slowly. For whatever reason, they love eating a Ned. We also use the Ned head with our little flat cat. Downsizing can have a massive impact on your day. If they're not eating those 3 or 4 inch size baits, going down to like a 2 or even under 2 inch bait can turn a group of fish that aren't eating into super hungry, and you're having one of the best days of your life. So speaking of downsizing, and we talked about the evolution of how fishing up shallow has changed a lot. What we found is that we were having more success with these subtle small bait presentations. Now in the last couple of years, we've taken it even further, and we developed a micro series for Great Lakes Finesse. These are even smaller versions of our original baits that we, quite frankly, gravitate to the most and use the most. Making that subtle switch to even smaller profiles has a massive impact on a lot of days. Not only is it a size they never see, it also changes the fall rate, how the bait behaves. So it's a completely different look that they're not used to seeing from other anglers. So it looks really natural, and it's going to get you bites when other anglers are really struggling. So that's our simple blueprint. It's really not as complicated as a lot of people think. Now you've got the information you need to have a pile of success when you go up shallow. If you got value out of this video and you're like what you're watching, we encourage you to like and subscribe. We've got a whole series of videos in this Finesse Bootcamp to give you all the information we've got to help you have success as a finesse angler. So come along and learn with us.